Hi, I'm Jarratt Davis and I'm back here with the next video in our series. And I also wanted to just thank you very much for your comments, suggestions and even your questions, right? Because there's just such a lot of excitement about this stuff and the potential that it has. So it's really great to kind of read all those and go through them. Now, as I mentioned in the last video, this is the first time in my investing career where I've seen a genuine opportunity to generate huge returns without the usual same amount of related risk, right? And these kind of opportunities, they literally, well, come along once every few decades at least, right? But when they do, it really doesn't take much money or much investment to make a very handsome return. So I'm talking about 30, 50, even 100 times your money, which of course is serious potential. But to be perfectly honest, making money is obviously great, but for me, I'm actually just genuinely excited about how this technology, blockchain technology, could change our world, right? It's pretty much like every other revolution before this, like the internet, smartphones. Like when those things were coming along, I didn't really personally stop to think about their potential to change our lives going forward, right? I just kind of took it as it came. But imagine a world without middlemen. Imagine being able to completely control and make a living simply off your own data, right? Imagine a world where it is impossible to create fake or counterfeit products, right? The list of possibilities goes on and the potential is incredible. Now, the basic opportunity for wealth creation just with this technology around the world is unparalleled. And this is one reason why I started a hedge fund in the first place, right? Because having a fund structure gives me the flexibility to invest into different things at different times. And the opportunity with crypto is absolutely fascinating for me personally, right? Like, if you think about it, if we invest $50,000, right, and we lose it all, it's no big deal, right? $50,000 doesn't really impact the fund too heavily. But on the other hand, if it booms and we do get that 50 or even 100 times return, this would represent a very good return, right? So anyway, as promised, here are the 2 pro tips to implement when you're looking to buy into any crypto asset. Okay, so the first tip is that you need to do some fundamental analysis. Now, there's a lot that goes into fundamental analysis. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to a short video about fundamental analysis and how you can apply it to crypto assets specifically. When trading currencies, the key to making money is all about fundamental analysis. So that's things like central banks, economic data, all that stuff is critical. But how do you conduct fundamental analysis with cryptocurrencies? Well, the first thing you need is something called the white paper. Now, the white paper is kind of like an instruction manual and a description, right? So to illustrate this, we're going to look up Auger coin on Google and we're going to put in the word white paper. So this, what we're looking at here, is the white paper for Auger coin, right? Now, one of the first things you'll see is that they start giving you a kind of an abstract, right? And then they'll tell you how their coin and their blockchain works and what the purpose of it all is. Now, in this example, Auger coin is a decentralized platform on the blockchain that basically helps to predict things, right? So when fundamentally analyzing a white paper, there are 5 things that you need to look for, okay? The first thing that you need to look for is, are they trying to sell you their product in the white paper? Because some white papers are just a sales piece, right? Or they might focus on promising ridiculously large returns. Anything of that nature has no value, okay? The second thing is that you need to look for if the coin solves a significant real world problem, right? And also a problem that affects millions of people, right? Like there's a coin, I think it's called GAT coin. Now GAT coin, it basically keeps track of coupons on the blockchain, right? Now, I'm sure that there's grandmothers up and down the country who are going to be really pleased that they can track their coupons. But in reality, for me, it doesn't really solve a large real world problem, right? So personally, I would give Gatcoin a miss. So utility is very important, but it also needs to be used by many people and scalable to the masses. The third thing to look at is the team behind it, because you need to make sure the team is well qualified. And this can be done by simply comparing a few different coins and checking out the qualifications of the team behind them. Now, a great place to start is on a website called coinmarketcap.com, right? You can see the list of all the coins by market capitalization. And if you click on them, like we can do this with this an example coin Stellar, you can go to their website, go to About, and then go to the team section. So you want a quality team that's qualified, right? Check to see if their main engineers and developers have worked on any other high-profile projects in the recent past. Now, the fourth thing you need is kind of traction and a community, because you might have identified the best coin ever. It's going to solve world hunger, and the team behind it are the most brilliant developers ever known. But if no one knows about the cryptocurrency and there's no community support for it, it's very unlikely to get traction. And that's an issue because you need some kind of catalyst to make the coin appreciate now, or at least in the near future. The last thing you want is to kind of put your money in and then it just sits there going nowhere for years, right? So there's a few ways that you can do this, right? So the first way is to visit a website called steemit.com. This is a great site to learn more about each cryptocurrency and to determine what kind of traction that crypto has. So one of the things you can do is check that they have a Telegram group, right? And if they have, make sure that it's got thousands of members, nothing below. You can also watch for news reports or search online to see if the developers themselves or other developers are getting interested in building on top of that coin. And the other important thing is to see if any high-profile investors are getting into the coin themselves. So, for example, to illustrate this, in the stock market, you might hear that like Warren Buffett is going to be buying a stake in a company, right? And that kind of adds a seal of approval to that business, right? Well, the same is true for crypto assets. And the other thing to check is to see if they are a first mover in their space. And you can just do a search for any competitor coins trying to do the same thing. So for example, right now, there are several coins all trying to increase transaction speeds and be the base for other coins to build on, especially to replace Bitcoin or Ethereum. So that kind of specific goal or solution is a little bit of an overcrowded space, in my opinion. So the key is to find a coin that's the first mover in the space and solves this big real world problem. And the fifth question is the coin centralized or decentralized? Now, this is really important because the whole point of blockchain is that it's this decentralized mechanism which isn't dependent on any government or governing body or central authority. It's all operating to verify transactions independently, right? So there are some coins out there that are simply based on a single centralized entity. So there have been questions about whether Ripple, which is a coin you might have heard of, is truly decentralized, right? There are even some central banks that are trying to issue their own coins backed by themselves. But in reality, all of this defeats the whole purpose of cryptocurrency technology. These coins ultimately won't perform as well as ones that are decentralized on the blockchain. Now, normally, when trading something like FX, the next thing you generally want to consider before putting your money down is the sentiment of the market, right? Because sentiment gives you a catalyst for your trade. That's how it works. And you also want to factor in a little bit of technical analysis, which is all about getting a good entry so you can limit your drawdown. Now, as it turns out, the second tip here is actually to forget all about technical analysis, sentiment analysis, right? Forget that. Instead, you want to double down on your risk management. Now, the reason for this is that the problem with cryptocurrencies, especially altcoins, which is what we're talking about here, is that the market is literally in its infancy, right? So there are huge swings because of the illiquidity. And that's why you get huge gains, think hundreds of %. So when that happens, traders naturally take their profit. So you're going to get this big wild up and down. So it's difficult to find a decent technical level or even a pattern that is as reliable as in a standard market like FX. Now, the issue with sentiment is that in a more established market, you can hear some news come out and jump in and back the profits, right? But the issue with cryptos is it's just a bit more tricky because you've got different exchanges, transaction delays. There's no real reliable way to get fast news so early in this industry. So my solution to this basically is to manage the situation, and instead of trying to worry about that, double down on how you expose yourself to these price moves and reduce your risk, right? And this is actually a really simple concept. Instead of all that, you're going to split your position into two parts. So part one, you invest when you find a good opportunity and you find something you think is going to be world-changing. And then the second half is just reserved for one of those radical price drops that's naturally going to occur over time. So this allows you to kind of average into position and actually use those big drops as an opportunity to improve your average entry price overall. Now, to me, that strategy is a lot more effective than trying to predict with technical analysis or trying to ride the wave of sentiment. And this is simply due to the nature of these things and the fact that the market is just so young. So they are my top 2 tips, okay? So the first one is to get to grips with fundamental analysis and then double down on your risk management. Now remember, this is just an overview because there are over 500 top coins and ICOs are happening every day. So you're going to have your work cut out for you doing your research. So just bear that in mind. I also would want to thank you for your involvement. We've been getting some great questions coming in. And one of the things I noticed, one of the concerns that I noticed particularly was Bitcoin crashed hard. And a lot of people wonder if they're just going to lose their money if they bought into it. Well, first of all, again, I wouldn't say that Bitcoin is necessarily the best crypto to invest in anyway. Okay, that's the first thing. I wouldn't really worry about Bitcoin. The reason it went so high and then fell so hard is that people misunderstood what it was, right? Bitcoin, simply a medium of exchange. It's not some speculative investment destined to skyrocket in price. So understand what it is. So that crash had nothing to do with it being a bubble, really, and more to do with it being kind of involved with people's misplaced beliefs of those retail investors getting involved. So generally speaking, I think the rise of Bitcoin has got a lot more juice in it yet, but you should always be aware of the reasons for making an investment into anything. Now, another concern people had was the volatility. And the short answer to this is that volatility is good because it creates opportunity. Remember, we're not risking the house on this project, right? It's a small percentage. So the best strategy is more of a buy and hold investor, right? While adding small positions at any time there's a major drop in the price. You might also be wondering what the best cryptos to invest into are, right? It can sometimes seem there's so many to choose from. And unfortunately, the cold hard reality is that you need to do some research, right? So read the white papers, check out the team behind each one, and just give it time, because over time you definitely start to discover opportunities that really stand out and rise above all of the others. Another thing I've heard lots of people say lately is that it's a bubble and that the banks and the governments won't allow a new currency to take over the world, right? And the key to this one is it's not about new currencies. The term cryptocurrency is actually pretty misleading. A more accurate term would be crypto assets. And the revolution is not just in finance, right? Remember, we talked about this, it's in almost every data-reliant industry. So hopefully that helps, just a few of those questions, a few of the things you might have been wondering. In the next video, I'll be talking about how you can actually get involved with all of this, right? So as ever, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What are your views? How do you see all this revolution playing out? Let me know what you think in the comments below. I mean, personally, I'm really fascinated with the whole thing. And I'm quite excited to see how it all plays out over the coming months. So thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon with the next video.